Hi, everyone. Oh, sorry. Not this one. This one. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. It's great to have you here. Welcome to this webinar, Bringing Long Duration Storage Technologies to the Market. My name is Christina Galan from ATA Insights/RedMat. I will be the moderator today, and we're very happy to have everyone here. I see that people are joining in on Zoom and on YouTube. So welcome everyone. You have a chat there available. Let us know where you're from. I know there's people from tons of different countries worldwide. So we would love to hear from you and what you do and why you're interested in this webinar. So this session will be recorded. We will share the recording with you in a couple of days. You will have also available this session in your email. So you have the chat to let us know where you're from and any other comments you have, but you also have another Q&A section for specific questions that you would like to ask to our speakers today. So please remember to use that section for any questions that you may have. We will be answering questions at the end of this session. And also for YouTube, I know you also have a little chat there as well. So my colleague Lucia, who is in the back, will also be helping us with those questions so we receive them correctly. So moving on to the webinar today, the long duration energy storage technologies and bringing them into the market, which is they're key into the decarbonization goals that we are facing nowadays. The USA specifically is boosting the commercialization of these technologies through a memorandum of understanding or a partnership with different organizations that we will meet right away. So without further ado, what we're going to do is first an introduction of each speaker, their organization and their experience. Then we'll move on to talk a little bit more about this initiative and how it's shaping the long duration energy storage arena in the USA, and then we will move on to a couple of Q&A pre-submitted questions that we have, and also your questions as well. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Emily Sanford Fisher. Hi, Emily. Good morning. Emily is the Executive Vice President of Clean Energy and General Counsel and Corporate Strategy at the Edison Electric Institute. So I'm going to stop sharing right now so we can see you. And Emily, it's great to have you here. So whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Christina. It's really a pleasure to be here with all of you today to talk a little bit about long duration energy storage and our efforts in the US to move this critical technology to commercialization. I work for an organization called the Edison Electric Institute. It's a trade association that represents investor-owned electric companies in the US. We have 3 different sort of business models here. My members serve about 235 million Americans and operate in all 50 states in the US. I have about 63 members, and 50 of them have long-term voluntary commitments to reduce their emissions to zero or net zero. Up until 2016, electric power generation was the largest source of emissions in the United States. We're now proudly in second place after transportation, but we have ambitious goals to reduce our sector's emissions. And as we look at the technologies available to accomplish those goals, we know that in the near term, we're going to deploy a lot of wind, solar, and shorter duration storage, maybe battery electric storage. But as we look out across what our options are, we see that we're going to need new technologies and have generally identified some critical technologies: advanced nuclear technologies, carbon capture and storage, clean fuels like hydrogen and maybe even ammonia. But as members have really taken a deep look at what technologies are out there, many of them are coalescing on the really significance and importance of long duration energy storage. One, because it will help us manage the variability of renewable generation, but also because it can provide so many other services that are critical to our customers, including resilience and reliability. And so that's really our focus on long duration energy storage right now. We're excited about the opportunities, and we'd like to be able to deploy these technologies sooner rather than later. So thank you for the opportunity to participate.
Thanks, Emily, and welcome. Moving on, we have Neva Espinoza. Hi, Neva. Good morning. We have Neva from the Electric Power Research Institute. She works in the energy supply and low carbon resources field. And Neva, if you can introduce yourself and a little bit your organization.
Great. Thanks so much, Christina. And so great to be here. Thank you all for joining us to talk a little bit about the importance of long duration energy storage today. So as Christina mentioned, I work with the Electric Power Research Institute. We are a global research and development organization that really focuses across the energy system. And I see many of you have dropped your kind of name and organizations in the chat here. And I'm pleased to say that we've worked with many of you in the past. So EPRI is a pretty large research and development scope, about $450 million worth of research on an annual basis. And we work across 45 different countries. Many of you are member organizations, over 450 different member organizations as part of EPRI, really looking to advance and enable technology as quickly as possible to really ensure this energy transition continues to be reliable, affordable, and resilient for the entire global economy. So very similar to what Emily mentioned, when we look at where our energy systems today and our broad global goals to achieve economy-wide net zero, we really see a need for additional technologies to come to the table. It can't just be one technology. It can't just be two technologies. We have a huge amount of energy transition, integration of sectors, and really looking at using energy very, very differently than we do today. So we need a very broad range of options to best enable different localized regions and communities to meet their clean energy goals. So that's really a big part of what EPRI is driving towards, working with many of your organizations today. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Neva. And definitely one size shoe does not fit all, as we say here in Spain. I think there's an equivalent in English. So yeah, so definitely. Thank you for that introduction. Moving on, we have Julia Souder from the Long Duration Energy Storage Council. She is CAO. She's been here a couple of times now. This is her second time, I think, this year. So Julia, it's great to have you. Where are you right now? Because I've been following you and you've been all around.
I'm back from Asia and Washington, D.C. I'm in California today and head to Europe tomorrow.
Okay. You've been busy.
Yes, lots to talk about with long duration energy storage. So it's great. But thank you, Christina, so much for the opportunity to be back here again with you and ATA Insights and with my esteemed panelists and colleagues. It's really thrilling to hear all of us start to really focus on the flexibility of long duration energy storage and the important need of our partnerships working together. The Long Duration Energy Storage Council was formed at COP26 to really initiate this $4 trillion marketplace and really bring this diversity of thermal, mechanical, electrochemical, and chemical technologies to the marketplace. We have diverse technologies in our membership that spans over 20 countries and over 60 members. And we've been growing because of the interest in diversity of long duration energy storage, as well as these huge market opportunities. It's thrilling to see just in the last few years, the $20 billion of investment in long duration energy storage, the ongoing procurement targets that are being identified in many different countries, and really just trying to promote, again, the need that we really need this flexibility. We are all dealing with constantly weather changes. And as we really kind of move into this new clean energy economy, as we meet our net zero targets and decarbonize working together, we really need to have this flexibility that long duration energy storage provides. So we're thrilled to bring our council together, really try to push forward this marketplace. The time is now to use flexible long duration energy storage to achieve net carbon neutrality. I mean, we're demonstrating in our reports on our website that we have 8 terawatts of long duration energy storage that's needed to really make sure that you have the wind and solar there 24/7. It's about anywhere from 85 to 140 terawatt hours. So there's a lot to do, a lot to scale up, but we look forward to working with all of you to really promote the diversity of long duration energy storage, to really promote the on-grid systems, the remote systems, islands, like the fact that long duration energy storage is part of all of our economies as we make this transition together.
Definitely. Well, thank you, Julia, for that introduction. And last but definitely not least, we have Anna Siefken from the Office of Technology Transitions at the DOU, the Department of Energy. She will be introducing herself. And also, I know that, Anna, you have a couple of slides that you're going to share. So we're going to move directly into this partnership, or also MOU, which is the Memorandum of Understanding. So we're going to dive in directly into the content of today's session.
Great, thank you so much. And thank you, Christina. It's wonderful to be here today. I really appreciate the opportunity with my esteemed colleagues to talk more about long duration energy storage. So when President Biden came into the White House on day one, he rejoined very, very important international agreements that are focused specifically on decarbonization. And ever since then, we have been on a sprint. So as many of you know, outside of the United States, I'm sure you've seen the news, we are pushing forward on clean energy technologies in a way that has not happened in the United States ever. This is a moment in time. It's very important. And so what we're doing is trying to accelerate as many technologies forward as possible, technologies that are clean, that are equitable, that are affordable, and that impact the communities that need it the most. So we are, as I mentioned, it is a race because we are racing not only against time in terms of reaching 2030, that critical date, but also a race in terms of how many projects can we start? How can we work with our partners around the world to shore up domestic manufacturing, supply chain, and to make sure that we are really thinking forward about how we're delivering and storing electricity. So powering our country is incredibly important, and there's so many complex issues, and that's why I'm so proud to be a part of this important partnership that's looking specifically at long duration energy storage. So with that, I'm going to share my screen and have just a couple of slides, and let's see if technology is on my side today. Let's go from the beginning.
It looks like it. It's not on presentation mode, Anna.
Okay. There we go. So what I'm going to do is just quickly run through some details around this newly announced Memorandum of Understanding. So quickly, I mentioned before, but I wanted to put this up so that you can see my LinkedIn. You can connect with me directly to learn more information about what's happening at the department. And the reason is because we're trying to really increase transparency. We want people to understand what's happening in the United States, what we're trying to accomplish. I'm with the Office of Technology Transitions, and I actually showed this slide, and please take a picture if you'd like, because a lot of people, it's difficult to understand where our office, OTT, fits within the grand scheme of the way that the DOE is thinking about funding programs.
Anna, sorry to interrupt. We're seeing the different mode, not we're seeing the presenter mode, not the presentation mode. You should have it in another application.
So hold on, I'm going to stop sharing then.
Okay.
And I'm going to try again. So how about this? Same thing, right?
No, now it looks perfect.
Oh, great. Okay, good. It looks exactly the same to me. So I'm so glad it looks different for you. All right. So the important thing about this is that people have heard about the Loan Programs Office, which is giving out loans at $100 million right now. That's sort of where their starting point is. But we've stood up a new office called the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations, which has a lot of funding, as well as our traditional applied offices. But you'll see across the top, as we go through what we call the TRL levels, technology readiness levels, that OTT is a part of de-risking technologies at every stage. So as a part of the work that we're doing in OTT, again, trying to move my slides forward, we recently published a series of reports. There are currently 4 of them, and they're called the Pathways to Commercial Liftoff. And one of them is on long duration energy storage. So if you go to liftoff.energy.gov, you can see all of the reports that we've currently published. And we have 3 more that we're looking at: one, industrial decarbonization, including steel, chemicals, and cement; another on virtual power plants. So that's sort of the lanes that we're working in. Right now, we've done clean hydrogen, advanced nuclear, carbon management, and long duration energy storage, which is, again, why we're here today. So what we did with these liftoff reports, we were looking domestically at what are the barriers and challenges to commercialization of different technologies. And we wanted to create a credible fact base as well as like a language so that we could talk together about what we want to do with long duration energy storage in particular for that report. So again, you can download that report. It's about 90 pages with an executive summary, but pretty interesting information about how we're thinking about long duration energy storage. So when we talk about liftoff, which is an important part of this, you can see that we're trying to actually reach that liftoff threshold, which means bringing down the cost and bringing up the market mechanisms so that we get to a point where we actually have supply chain where we need it to be and we're able to deploy. That is what Secretary Granholm talks about all the time. We want to make sure we are getting as many projects started as possible. So with that, and with my esteemed colleagues again, we launched an MOU in partnership at CERAWeek, which was in Houston in March. There are currently 3 partners. We have plans to pull in additional organizations, but we really are looking not only at that whole continuum that I was showing you, that all the TRL levels and all the different areas of and sort of risk related areas associated with long duration energy storage. And we're also using that Pathways to Commercial Liftoff report for long duration energy storage. This is kind of a jumping off point for our conversations. So what do we plan to do together? We're supporting the development of domestic manufacturing, and we're really focusing on the long duration energy storage shot. So we have earth shots, much like moon shots, but we have an earth shot around long duration energy storage, which has to do with reducing the cost of utility scale by 90%. Within over 10 hours within the decade. We're facilitating understanding and dissemination of knowledge about different technological, economic benefits, as well as barriers. We're providing access to DOE and some of the capabilities there so that we can leverage and all, again, speak the same language, run in the same direction. And then we're benefiting from information from folks like all of you and very interested in hearing more. So if you have questions, of course, I put my email there again, and that is the end of my very short presentation. So with that, I think I stopped sharing. Did I stop sharing?
No, not yet. We still see your screen.
Great.
Let me see if I can do anything here.
I'm not going to touch anything. I'll let you do it.
No, not yet. If there's a little spot in green that says stop sharing. Can you see it?
Hold on. I lost that window.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is that I'm going to share again, and then you won't be sharing anymore. So
good. Thank you. I mean, I'd like to share, but just not all of my screen for the whole rest of this webinar.
I can understand that. So there it is.
There we go. Thank you.
And I will stop sharing as well. All right. So we should only see each other, which is the important. Okay. Well, thank you, Anna. Thank you also for that introduction, getting to know a little bit more the goals and where the U.S. administration is heading and the importance of the deployment of long duration energy storage. As we were saying before, there's tons of different technologies, tons of different projects. So there's a lot to do. There's a lot of flexibility needed and a lot of reliability. So my first question, and please, as Anna said, I see a couple of questions coming in, but if you have more questions, please send them in. How do you see, and this one goes to everyone in the panel, how do you see these technologies develop in the next 5 to 10 years, since we're starting right from scratch, we can say, and moving on towards to a more complex ecosystem, I would say.
Well, it might be useful to have Julia start out on that, just because she's, I think, closest to the technologies, and then maybe have Neva follow on as she's actually working on actual projects.
Thanks, Emily. No, great point. So, Kristen, as you mentioned, there are types of long duration energy storage that have been around for decades. I mean, pumped hydro has been around and has been working in, providing clean energy for for almost 100 years or over 100 years. And we've, been able to take now innovations and upgrades within the system to really kind of advance conversations on long duration energy storage. What's been thrilling too is to see the advancements in compressed air, really kind of building on the technologies there for the past few decades. And then we're seeing these advancements in mechanical storage, underground, above ground, using different types of substances in different containers that can be maximized or minimized depending on the location. We're also seeing all these advancements in batteries. So when you say long duration energy storage, we're speaking over 8-10 hours, multiple days, seasons. And so we're looking at all these different types of very environmentally friendly, very proficient elements in the periodic table that are not lithium ion. So zinc and vanadium and,
Julia, sorry, you just went on mute.
Sorry.
There you go.
And so, the diversity again within each types of these, we're really seeing. But I think one of the key points is that there are long duration energy storage technologies that are commercially available today, but we need to scale them up. Like we really need to get to that growth curve that we to reach that 8 terawatts. And so really having these public-private partnerships and this coordination with utilities and researchers to all push together to really push out the new innovations and technologies, but also really advance us. Another one on the thermal energy storage, really just seeing the efficiencies and a lot of the, using salts or volcanic rock or bricks, are, just using existing reusable materials that can really give cost savings that also can kind of build into existing systems. So there's a lot of creativity in the marketplace. There's a lot of existing technologies and a lot of existing and future possibilities to really expand the diversity of long duration energy storage. And it's been great that some of our members have also been working with EPRI on, really kind of building from the pilot to the demo stage. So Neva.
Great, thanks, Julia. Yeah, I would agree with, can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. I agree with everything Julia said. And, I think what's so unique about long duration energy storage is that when we talk about it as a suite of technologies, it could mean so many different things, right? So, we're particularly talking about how long a storage mechanism can be. When you think about the technologies itself, though, you can have mechanical, you can have chemical, you can have thermochemical, et cetera, and we can go on. And I'm sure we will throughout the webcast. But a lot of times, each of those very specific technology options is very unique from another in terms of the materials it uses, in terms of regional resources that may be required to best utilize that technology, in terms of how it integrates, et cetera, et cetera. So, over the next 5 to 10 years, I really think one of the most important things to do is demonstrate. Lots and lots of demonstrations, because 5 different energy storage demonstrations can be totally different technologies. And we need to see as many as we possibly can be demonstrated to show those use cases and applications across the board.
Hey, Christina, if you don't mind.
Neva, a quick question. When you talk about demonstrations, what are you specifically referring to?
So I'm specifically referring to actually building projects, integrating them into systems and operating them for relatively extended periods of time to really understand true risk, true operation, and start the learning curve. First of a kind technology to nth of its kind technology has a big time difference in between. And we need to learn from every single project as we build it. Emily, I think you wanted to add something though.
Hey, thanks, Neva. So, I appreciated your focus on demonstration projects. I actually never doubt the ability of engineers to eventually figure it out. I think having worked in the electric sector for a long time, I see that happen repeatedly. The one thing we can't predict is exactly when technologies will become available. As Julia pointed out, a lot of long duration energy storage technologies are available and being deployed today. But electric companies tend to be, I think, appropriately risk averse because of our obligation to provide both affordable and reliable service. And so we really need to understand how technologies operate. And so I'm not super worried about, whether we're going to figure these technologies out or whether storage will be able to expand from, the current 4-8 hours to some of our goals are like daily or monthly or even seasonal storage. I believe that will happen in time. I think what we need to do is be preparing all of the sort of ecosystem issues that can tend to slow things down that have nothing to do with the science. So I think operational, demonstration projects are hugely important, in the work that like Neva and a lot of Julia's members are doing is very important, so that we understand how they operate, so we feel comfortable with them from a reliability perspective. But I'm more worried about, dumb things that could get in the way, like regulatory regimes that weren't built for purpose and don't really understand how to address long duration energy storage.
And I'll add to all of your comments. So I think that we've all determined, as someone just put in the chat, how critical this area is to our energy security, to the reliability of the grid. I mean, we all know that everyone wants to, flip a light switch and have electricity there. That is the intent. That is the hope, is that it is reliable and affordable. Given that there are so many different technologies that are being developed, that it's the government's hope that we can try these out geographically as much as we can. But I will say this risk piece is really important. And that is part of the role of what the government can do, which is to help to de-risk these technologies at critical points in their cycle, like whenever that might be. So we see within the valleys of death that all technologies go through a couple of different places where DOE can insert federal funding. And so that is sort of the intent, is how many of the technologies, because we're not picking winners here. We're trying to raise the floor, raise it so that everyone can participate in this market. But that does take off-takers. It takes people who are willing to go in on the risk. And the federal government is trying its best through any number of different programs to de-risk the technologies as much as possible, so that we can, figure this out together. It is a collective effort. But again, it is in many cases geographically constrained. There are different needs for areas that might be hurricane prone than there are for areas that have frigid temperatures. And we've seen in the news in the United States, there have been some, challenging situations in different parts of the country because of the way their grid is functioning. So our hope is that we can use this technology, these LDES technologies across the different kinds, to really come up with some solutions that will work for different off-takers, because all areas of the country seem to be very different in what their needs are.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. Julia, did you want to say anything else, or were you just nodding?
I just nodded in support because
Okay.
we are working on de-risking the transition, and LDES is a huge part of it. But yes, I think great points by Emily and even Anna.
Definitely. Absolutely. And thank you for that, those explanations and introductions. So we have a lot of people registered that are from outside the USA. So how do you see these different LDS technologies develop in other countries outside the USA? I know, Julia, that you've been doing a lot of visiting outside. Also, Neva, you've researched outside. So how do you see this being maybe not copied exactly, but adapted to other systems?
Sure. Neva, do you want to go first and I'll jump in?
Sure. I mean, I think, and I touched just a little bit in my earlier comments, but I mean, all energy systems are unique and different, but they still have kind of the fundamentals are essentially the same. And as I mentioned, long duration energy storage, because it encompasses so many different types of individual technologies, you can really identify a technology that best suits your region, right? Some of these technologies use kind of the natural geography, like height differences. Some of them really focus and lean into natural resources. Some of them integrate really well just on the electric system. Some integrate really well into industrial processes and heating sources. So I think the suite of long duration energy storage technologies really allows any region of the world, right? Any community, any industry to really lean into what is unique to them, what is their use case, and allow them to find a technology that really works well. And Julia, feel free to add. I'm sure you have
No, that was awesome. That's awesome, Neva, because I agree. It really depends on site specific, but this is why the council has really been working hard on building partnerships around the world. So we were just in Southeast Asia signing an MOU with the Philippines, the Solar and Storage Association. They're working on how do we build stronger partnerships? How do we really, build on the existing market? So there's capacity markets, ancillary service markets, PPA market, and a bilateral market. So the fact that you have these different opportunities already for LDES to participate, we really wanted to open these doors. Australia's been doing a great job of really setting specific targets for LDES and really bringing in different partners, whether it's in remote systems in the mining industry, whether it's planning with transmission grids and kind of like parallel systems with deferments or kind of, different partnerships with LDES and distribution transmission. We're also working with a lot of islands. So greening the islands and island innovation. We've been working with islands around the world on having existing solar and wind partner with long duration and what types of long duration, whether it's containers or whether it's above ground, below ground, whether there's existing pumped hydro and how to pair more solutions together. So really thinking on Neva's point on creative solutions for specific spaces, because what we're also seeing around the world is that we're seeing a lot of renewable energy be wasted. Curtailment is natural, but the fact that we're seeing over 50% of renewable energy curtailment in the United Kingdom and Chile in 1 year, losing tens of billions of dollars is just something that we need to push away from and really bring in long duration energy storage to provide that affordability. In our most recent study on net zero heat and power, the benchmarking, we showed that with long duration energy storage, you can have $540 billion of savings a year because you're really avoiding this curtailment and you're really helping with using the existing systems and providing a lot of mitigation measures. So I think to Neva's point, this partnership is really critical. You working with local communities and local needs, but then, also to Emily's point, there's diversity out there to choose from. So making sure the marketplace is supportive.
I might say, I don't want Julia to think our relationship is purely transactional, but, I think one of the things that was really exciting from an EEI perspective to be talking not only to Anna, but to Neva and Julia was the ability to access what's going on outside the United States. I mean, I think the storage shot that DOE is sponsoring and the work of the labs is super important, but both Neva and Julia give us access to developments in other countries that actually might be outpacing us with respect to some of those technologies. I said my members are a little bit risk averse. They like to be the third person to do something the first time or the first person to do something the third time. They want to see someone else do it because they want to make sure that it works. And I think it's a really interesting sort of like first opportunity, I think, in this clean energy technology space to really think about demonstrations on a global level. And so I think that work outside the US can be hugely important. And the work that Neva is doing on demonstrations with some of her international members also is just, it's really gonna be educational for all of us.
And I'll round this out on the international front. So obviously a lot of our work is domestically focused. There's liftoff reports, liftoff.energy.com. Those are all, it's all about the domestic barriers, but what we've seen, particularly in terms of sort of best practice sharing, like what has worked in other places that could work in the United States, is a huge area of interest of ours. There are supply chain issues that we're not going to be able to easily remedy. And so there are potentials for partnerships and liaisons in those areas. Obviously, this idea of how to manage offtake. There are any number of challenges that we've identified domestically that are similar or have already been solved internationally. So we are actively trying to determine what some pathways are, what kinds of PPAs are working better in other places. How can we do, what incentives are being used that we could either mirror or that we could parallel or share. And there are any number of countries that have reached out to us directly that want to work on long duration energy storage. So again, I gave my email address out. If someone has ideas about potential partnerships with other countries that they'd like to help us pursue, obviously we have teams of people that are working on our international engagement, but at the same time, some of the best connections are just one-to-one. So I look forward to hearing from your audience about opportunities that they see to partner with the federal government.
Definitely. Thank you, Anna. We'll post also in the chat your email just in case. just if people have missed it. So great. Well, thank you. Well, moving on to the questions that we have from participants. There's tons of questions coming here. So thank you so much, everyone, for your questions. They're super interesting. So let's see if we can get to most of them. So I'm going to start with one that is a question for all. It says, do you see any roles that AI play on LDS as we modernize grids?
I can
Yeah,
start on
That's
that one.
a Neva question.
Like we all want to jump on that one. I think so there are opportunities that we haven't even identified, but security is a huge issue. So AI on the security front, cybersecurity front, is really, really important. I'm going to let others jump in, but I would say the other is scaling. So using AI to very quickly scale something. So for example, there might be a technology that in normal time would take years to see it come to scale. If that technology can be accelerated at a rapid pace through AI in minutes instead of years, I mean, perfect in this particular application space.
So I'll just add to that, Anna. So I think we see AI as well as, advanced analytics and machine learning and go on and on and on. Just overall kind of advanced digitalization being a huge part of the energy transition. And it could have impacts, not just in long-duration energy storage, of course, but across the entire transition. That may mean very different things from one area to another, because Anna brought up, along with that, hand in hand comes the importance of security, and I actually think about that in the aspect of resilience. So you hear people talk about resilience of our energy system so often. Many times you hear it in the context of climate resilience and having the energy system ready for changing climate and designed for what the climate will be in the future. But resilience is more than that, of course. And I also think of digital resilience, right? And making sure the energy system understands and is ready for how much more integrated and digital it's actually going to be. But if you think about that role of AI, and Anna talked about scale, but just comprehensive learning, taking data across multiple systems, integrating that data to optimize systems in a way, optimizing beyond a component level, beyond a system level, and beyond even a fleet level, but in optimizing potentially energy systems across different sectors of the economy. The energy systems becomes significantly more complex as that happens in the coming decades. So it's definitely going to be one of those really interesting things to watch.
And just, Neva, you just said something that, we have members that run data centers. And so just the irony of just having the data centers really be pushing forward the need for long-duration energy storage to get that efficiency and security and resiliency, but at the same time, causing the additional demand because of all the AI processing. So it's and then I think there's a question in the chat too about the modeling, just the advancements in modeling already have changed. And that's what this partnership with EEI, EPRI, and USDOE is so important, to start coordinating the modeling and really use these advanced tools to really get us to the next level quickly.
I guess I'll offer a cautionary note. I totally agree with Neva's assessment on the increasing digitization of the grid. There's zero way that we don't move through an energy transition without taking advantage of these tools. But a digital grid and a grid that has more connections to the internet is actually a less safe grid. It increases the attack vector from a cybersecurity perspective. And so it does introduce challenges. There are whole parts of EEI that spend all day, every day focused on cybersecurity. And so it's just an important thing, is we have to build security into new technologies, and not, not all things have good and bad sides. There's just not a reason not to use digital learning or to, modernize the grid, but we have to also recognize that it creates some risk.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And thank you for pointing that out. The importance of security, which is something that maybe we might skip or not take into account, but definitely it is something very, very important. So moving on to batteries, we have a couple of questions here on batteries. And the question comes from Shannon, who says, how do you see LDS competing with lithium-ion batteries in the near term for 6 to 12 hour duration range? And how does LDS compare with advanced batteries such as solid state and sodium ion? We also have a couple of questions below talking about other types of batteries. So in general, I would say just your perspective on batteries and their duration.
So great question. And on our website, we have a ton of information on the different types of members that we have, the different batteries. We have, a variety in iron and aqueous. We have liquid. I mean, so that you can see that the differences there. To address the lithium ion, they're different things. They have different purposes. Lithium ion is very good for short duration, but it has its limitations when you get it over 8 hours. And so, are you really using it effectively to get the full efficiency out of the system? We're seeing a lot of the batteries kind of be used so much lately that they're getting worn down in less than 10 years. So what's great about long duration storage is that these are 20-year assets. They can do them multiple hours, multiple days. They serve it. They have a different purpose. And so it really kind of checks a different box. There is a bridge from the 8 to the 10 that both short and long can do. I think it depends on the location and the costs and how long you want an asset to run effectively and efficiently. On the diversity of long duration for the new types that are evolving, what's really thrilling is that we have members that are in TRL levels 2, 3, 4, and then also that are already commercial. And so that shared partnership to kind of build each other all up, like Anna was showing, to learn from each other to help us push forward is really important. And one other quick thing that just came up, on this de-risk position, we're seeing also more insurance companies and more warranties for these different types of batteries come to fruition because of the awareness of the reliability and just a lot of the testing that's been done. So it's slowly starting to change, but we're getting more, kind of the insurance, the securities, the bankers, the traditional banks really starting to invest more because they're seeing the value.
I'd like to add on to that too, Neva, if you don't mind. The idea of diversifying our portfolio, I think, is really important. So we have the electrification of vehicles that are using a lot of this very valuable commodity, lithium ion. And so this idea of having different kinds of technologies that do different things is a model, I think, that's worth sort of following along. I think that we're really seeing the pickup in electrification and EVs. And as long as that continues to happen, the DOE has sponsored funding mechanisms that are specifically looking at mining in the United States again, mining lithium ion. But at the same time, we also know that there's such a huge need for that material that it has security concerns. We want to make sure that we have access to it. The last thing we want is to build everything to build an entire system that's based only on one technology and have there be some crack in that system. This diversification of the entire portfolio between this shorter duration battery use and longer duration storage, again, it goes to use case.
Yeah, I'm just going to agree, Julian and I agree with both of you. And I was going to make a very similar point, right? That these different technologies bring different values, but in that the diversity of technology really allows flexibility in materials, allows flexibility in long-term supply chains potentially, right? We're talking about, different ingredients to make different technologies, if you will. And that really is important to this transition to provide that diversity.
Perfect. Thank you. I also have, Emily, is there anything you would like to add, or you're good? Okay, just double checking. Yeah, I'm assuming that this is the same take as well when we talk about hydrogen, which is now people are talking a lot about it. It also depends on the specific project that you're thinking about. It's something new, and it's something I don't know if you have any takes on hydrogen that you would like to add, as it was one of the questions in the chat.
I saw the question in the chat, and I think hydrogen has a lot of potential, but we are still trying, I think, collectively, at least in the US, to wrap our arms around what a hydrogen economy would look like and what are the different constituent elements of that. And the Department of Energy has pretty significant funding for folks to propose projects that are hydrogen hubs, which is putting together the production, the transportation, the storage, and the use cases. And I think DOE, Anna, you probably know this better than I do, is looking to probably start issuing awards by the end of this year for those hydrogen hubs. And so I think we're a pretty far away from being really able to fully understand what the full sort of potential of hydrogen is, or, to the question that was posed, is hydrogen worse? Is it worth it? Because it is rather energy intensive right now in terms of its production. And so I think we're actively exploring that, and it's really important. There's an ongoing conversation right now in the US about whether or not hydrogen blending in combustion turbines is a legitimate way to reduce emissions from natural gas generation. It is, but you have to produce the hydrogen and transport it and store it. And so it's not super clear that that's the best possible use of hydrogen. And so I think we're at early stages. And so it's too soon to dismiss hydrogen, but I don't know that we know all the answers to the questions yet.
Perfect. Thank you. Anyone else? Nope, we're good. Okay, next question. How dependent are LDS technologies on transmission line development and upgrade? Will it be a huge bottleneck given how slow the progress in T&D permitting is?
Well, I'm sure Julia has a response to this. I mean, I will say that one of the things that long duration energy storage could do is defer some necessary investments in the T&D system. Not permanently, but they could create some flexibility in the transmission system that doesn't currently exist. And that might help us get through some of our current sort of backlog and trying to get more things interconnected to the grid, at least in the US.
No, well said, Emily. I'm also thinking, Neva and I have been talking about the global crisis of interconnection queues. I mean, this is happening around the world. And so if we're trying to figure out how to help kind of defer, plan differently, that's why we're really, working with Department of Energy on their inclusive transmission planning, because you really need to see how LDES can work for transmission, distribution, remote systems, again, that diversity. But yeah, this is a global phenomenon. So what's also been fascinating to see is that there are certain countries that are expediting their planning, permitting, and studies by doing parallel pathways. So instead of A plus B equals C, it's more A are all moving in parallel to kind of get the information out there. So hopefully that helps debunk it a little bit. But yes, it's a part of the solution, but we have all these, as Emily pointed out earlier, these other factors that cause influence.
Right. Well, thank you. Next question is, can anyone talk about?
I'd like to add on to what Julia said.
Of course. Sorry.
No, you're good. When you think about this energy transition and you think about shifting away from a very fossil-based economy that we are to a net zero economy, one of the big things many of us are tackling and struggling with, like the interconnection queues, is site repurposing. We are shutting down large fossil units around the world that communities have been built around, workforces have been built around. So there is a lot of opportunity to potentially repurpose those sites with lots of different options. There's not one option, there's lots of options, which is fantastic, but long duration energy storage really is one of those options, because those sites are normally so well located with natural resources. They already have interconnections, obviously, they have workforce, they have communities around them. So really a lot of opportunity there.
Great. Well, thank you. Moving on to the next question. Can anyone talk about tax credits available for long-term storage or anything of the sort, anything similar out there? What would your recommendation would be?
Julia, I think you might be able, I'm not sure.
Emily, I was going to say, Emily. Julia probably knows the ones for storage better than I do.
It's great that we have a standalone storage credit. I mean, that's really important. Yeah. And 30% is wonderful. And you get the extra 10% with community benefits, an additional 10% with supply chain. And there's even opportunity to get up to 60, 70% if you check all the boxes. It's a great start. When you look at some of the other groups that got different tax credits too, there were some differences, and I think let's see how it goes. But it's a fantastic way, because it's an investment tax credit too. You get this upfront. It's not a production tax credit. So having that is going to be really important. We're looking forward to more of the IRS criteria. Some of it just came out today, because there's rural criteria, there's urban, there's remote systems. So it's thrilling to see that LDES is included in long duration energy storage. And this is a big first stepping stone.
Thanks, Julianne. We're particularly talking about the IRA, the Inflation
yes.
Reduction Act. Yeah,
That's right.
Right. But Canada just passed theirs 2 months ago and they have a tax credit, and Australia's been talking about this, and it's just also been helping the European Union and their new electricity market design. This collaborative competition has really, as Anna said earlier, kind of raised the boat. That's really helped everybody kind of push forward on this market transition that Neva is highlighting.
Yeah, I can't speak specifically to the tax credits because we are not interpreting, we are helping to implement and push things along. So I encourage people to look at the IRS and sort of like, those official readings. But as Julie mentioned, there's, an incredible sort of stack that's helping these projects towards deployment. But at the same time, I encourage you and urge you really to continue pushing along with projects that you have, irregardless, right? Because these are going to make sense, because we need to prop up our systems. We need to make sure that we're resilient. It makes it more affordable, yes, but at the same time, we need these technologies to be tested in the market now. We need to see what's going to happen. And so this window of time is really, really important. And so I would say, if you're thinking about it, push forward, continue. We are seeing support not only in industry, but in governments around the world to these clean energy technology deployments. And so I just hope that it's not all about the money right now. It's got to be about, all of the other things, because there are so many things that are pushing the energy transition. I'm hoping that we can make it pencil, because it's so important to get done.
Perfect. This is just the beginning. We're just starting, as they say. Perfect. Well, thank you. Next question. Which type of storage, I would specifically say LDS technology, has recently impressed you in terms of LCOES, or do you find the most potential for a bigger range of projects?
I need a t-shirt that says, I just love LDS. I love LDS.
You love all of your children the same, right?
Exactly.
Right.
I don't know that I have a favorite. I'm actually just sort of very impressed by the range of possibilities and the different approaches. And I think one of the reasons why LDES is so exciting to my members is that because it is such a broad range of technologies, there are some really particular use cases. So, some of them are obviously going to compete with each other within a sort of a framework of a particular use case. But I think we're more obviously, levelized cost of electricity is certainly an important way of assessing the comparative cost of technologies. Maybe not the best one for electricity sector planning, where we actually have to be focused on actual costs, but cost is a huge factor. But I think we're mostly interested in the fact that there are just so many potential options to solve what could be very niche problems on particular parts of the system.
Perfect. Well, thank you. Moving on to
also,
next.
It's quite ironic that I have a high schooler who's taking chemistry, because he's super interested in what I bring home on this.
Really?
Was very psyched about iron as an option. So there you go.
That's good to know. Great. Going a little bit before on talking about tax credits and the challenging on financing long duration energy storage. What are the comments that you have on possible funding models? Or opportunities that you see?
Yeah, do you want to start on that, Julia?
Sure. Anna, do you want to go in though?
No, I was just going to say, there's if your technology is primarily domestic, or you can parallel path a domestic opportunity, or partner with an industrial that is in the United States. There are a number of mechanisms. The DOE we're looking at somewhere around $505 million for the allocations that we've received, the appropriations. And so we have different opportunities that have come through not only our national labs, which should always be considered as a partner. They are fantastic, including an upcoming testing lab that we're putting at PNNL that should open later in 2023. but consider partnering in ways where you can test out and sort of kick the tires on different technologies in the United States, because that funding, a lot of it's coming through the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations, for example. These are once in a lifetime opportunities, and they're going fast.
And just quickly, so in Germany, there's Sprint, who 2 years they're funding, they go through a whole process to find long-duration energy storage projects. They get mentorship, they get funding, they get kind of really, supported through the whole process to really bring to the next level. And the World Bank is looking at this more. We're partnering with them on different initiatives. The Innovation Fund in Europe, they're providing a lot of startups feeds. EPRI's done a great job of like the canyon of death, like instead of the valley, and just kind of showing what kind of public-private partnerships are possible. The loan guarantee program, when a lot of companies come together and help accelerate projects together, there's a variety of tools out there. I think really what's amazing, to Anna's point, is that there's a lot of money right there now. We're seeing a lot of investment, not just in equity, but debt now. So it definitely has switched from what was traditionally like, here's what you have to do, now to, yes, there's a basket full of choices. It's just really knowing where to go to get it and building these partnerships.
I guess I'll say, like, it's really exciting that there's so much, money from governments, from the US to others, to fund sort of near stage RD&D and deployment of those critical demonstration projects that Neva mentioned. I think our goal ultimately, though, is to have these technologies be able to compete on a commercial basis without government support. And that's where I go back to, because I'm a lawyer. Our regulatory regimes don't value the services that LDES provides right now. And so I think longer term, as we work through sort of the demonstration side and bring costs down just in the way that demos do, and we also have to be thinking about the regulatory regimes and the pricing models we have in the US. Power purchase agreements are great, but being able to compete in a market, I think, is a different story. And I think that's an ultimate goal. And I think we have to look at some of our regulatory structures to make sure that they're fit for purpose.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to all the speakers. We're almost out of time. So, and we've gone through most of the questions. However, we will be sending these comments and questions to our speakers. I wanted to thank everyone for being here today, attending this webinar. Great topics, great discussion. So thank you so much. Also, thank you to our speakers for being pioneers in this adventure. I'd have to say, definitely. Thank you so much for being here, for taking this journey with us and bringing closer this partnership and the opportunities there are for long duration storage. So I think we're going to finish up, round up. If there are any additional questions, please feel free to send us a comment. And we hope to see everyone very, very soon. And have everyone a great day wherever you are.
Thank you.
Thanks, Christina. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.